Hello everybody, I am Dr. Ram Gopal, a full-time consulting ophthalmologist and author of the lifesaver book, Sure Success Magic for NEET PG, INICET and FMGE. One of the most common terms that we come across from our faculty, from our mentors, and from many of the seniors and many YouTubers is the term smart study. If you study smart, you will be able to crack the exam. If you study smart, you will be able to get a good rank. So here is my take on what smart study should consist of. This probably will be a little longer video compared to my usual videos. I have given the timestamps below in the description. So in case any of you want to skip to what is relevant to you, you could do that. Although if you are a serious aspirant for NEET PG, INICET or FMGE, I would recommend that you watch the video in full. So here goes. So what are the components of smart study? I have put a total of 8 points over here as the components of smart study. Probably the first 3 I would say are the most important over here. The other 5 are not less important, but I would say are equally important. I'll be talking about these one after the other. The single most important component of smart study is the PYQs or previous year questions. You cannot afford to get a PYQ wrong. At the same time, you cannot afford to say, I was not aware that this is a PYQ, and you should not end up omitting or leaving that PYQ in the exam. So that is why PYQs are very important. So are PYQs alone enough? So you will find many of your faculty telling you PYQs alone are not enough. Questions don't get repeated per se as it is. All 200 questions will not be PYQs, or all 250 questions will not be PYQs. So questions get repeated from similar topics. There could have been a question about vitamin B12 this time. Next time there might be a question about vitamin B1. So vitamins becomes a very important topic, and as we know, it is a very important topic in biochemistry. So that becomes a previous year topic. So the PYQs and PYTs, or previous year topics together, is that alone enough? No, that alone is not enough also. That alone will probably help you to cover 40 to 50% of the questions which get asked in the exam. So what you do for the remaining around 50% of questions? So where does the remaining around 40% of the questions get covered from? That is from your notes or theory. The characteristics of an ideal notes are it should be concise, it should be crisp, and to the point. It should include most of the PYQs also, and most importantly, it should be revisable. Probably this is the only point in this video where I'm going to talk about Sure Success Magic. It satisfies all these criteria of being an ideal notes. So if you're not already using it, go ahead and use it. Or if you're already using the long version of the notes which your app has provided, some of them have 8,000 page notes, or some of them have 10,000 page notes, you need to rethink whether you can actually revise this before the exam. Very, very unlikely. So some of you would have gone for the shorter version of the notes, which again they are providing as printed notes. So if that is working for you, that is fine. But either of these notes or Sure Success Magic, any of these will probably require little annotation. What do we mean by annotation? Means adding extra points. While solving the Q bank, you may come across some point which is not already there in the notes, so you may add it to the notes. Or while solving the GTs, you may find such stuff. Or it may be from a recent exam. You may be preparing for the NEET PG next, but before that in the INICET, you may find some extra stuff was asked, which can be asked earlier. So you end up adding that and making your notes more pakka. Before coming to the next most important component of smart study, that is the MCQs, let us recall that about 45% of your questions get covered by the previous year MCQs and topics. Another 40 to 45% gets covered with your theory or notes with annotations from the Q banks or MCQs, of course. So where does the remaining 10% of questions come from? These will usually be totally new. It is new to me, it is new to you, it is new to your friend who's writing the exam next to you. An example would be from one of the recent INICETs where the half-life of letrozole was asked. Now, this is something which you really don't have to bother about. Coming to the MCQs, or the Q bank. See, the MCQs or Q banks are best solved daily. So best solved either before or after notes, that is by the retrograde method or by the antigrade method. Retrograde method is where you solve the MCQs or solve the modules and then read the respective theory. Of course, you would have read the information given in the explanation of the Q bank also, explanation of the MCQ. And the other thing is the antigrade method, where you read your theory first from your notes and then go on to solve the Q bank with its explanation. So what you have to realize in most of these question banks, when I say Q bank, I don't mean only Marrow Q bank, as I've said earlier. It could be any of the Q banks from any of the apps which you're using, or it could be from any review book also if you're using any of those. So what we have to realize is the multiple choice questions are there to teach you basically, and also to act as an instant revision tool. You read the MCQ, solve it, and read the explanation below it, and then again recall the MCQ. At the same time, the explanation probably will help you to answer other MCQs under that topic or in that module. But one word of caution over here. What we have to realize is the MCQs or the modules by themselves will be very large. If you're talking about say 18,500 MCQs, so along with their explanations, if we try to fit this in the form of a book, it would come to approximately 4,600 pages or even more than that. If we say we will fit about 20 MCQs in one page and about on one side of the, when I say one page, I mean only one page, one side of the sheet. And if we try to fit about 5 explanations in one page, this would amount to almost 4,600 pages. This is something which you have to keep in mind. So what is probably the shortcut or the fix over here? Is there something which you feel you know very well? You have to learn how to read the explanations or sometimes skim through the explanations. It is good that you read, but sometimes if it is something from a topic which you already know very well, do you really have to go through the entire one, or can you go on to the next question? That is something which you have to think about. Don't be an exam virgin. What I mean by that is, suppose you're writing NEET PG or FMGE or INICET and you go into the exam hall, that should not be the first time that you're sitting for a full 3 hours and trying to write the exam. It does not work that way. With the amount of competition around you, GTs or grant tests are a must. Don't get bothered by the fact that you have not fully prepared for all the 19 subjects, so I will prepare and then start taking GTs. No, keep taking GTs. See, one is it will help you to learn how to sit for 3 hours at a stretch. It will also tell you what are the silly mistakes you are creating. And it will also help you about time management. Are you spending too much time on a particular MCQ or a particular segment or a particular subject? You can always learn from the GTs. I would always say don't bother too much about your GT scores. GTs again will help to give you the real exam feel in front of the laptop as it would be on the day of the exam. And it will also teach you how to mark the review questions, how to go back to them and how to complete the paper, so that these fundamental mistakes should not be made during the actual exams. So my advice to you here is give GTs. How many GTs should you give? Is there any specific fixed number? No, not really. So I would say even if you're given 3 to 4 before your exam, you're still good. But if you can give a few more, that is also fine. But then again, remember your GT score will not give you your PG seat. Okay. So if you got a low score in your GT, don't sit, be sad and cry and do all those things. GTs help you to give the real exam feel, and that's it. So I just covered the three most important components of your smart study, that is the PYQs and the previous year topics, and the notes and theory with annotations, and the MCQs, Q banks or the GTs. Coming to the other few which are equally important components of smart study, one is the planning. So what I mean by planning is you should have a written down plan as to how you are going to utilize the remaining number of days for the exam. You might have 100 days left, you might have 200 days left, or you might have 50 days left. So it cannot be something which is in the air or which is there in your mind and you imagine, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. Have a written plan before you. I'm not giving out any plans over here. Of course, there are many faculty, many mentors, many people who have made out, say, 100-day strategy, 150-day strategy for the coming exams, or 1 month strategy, or 2 months for the INICET, 2 month strategy for the FMGE. In fact, if any of you guys watching this know of any good links to these strategies, you can comment below. Probably that will be helpful for all. But my basic point over here is that have a written down plan, so that will make you more accountable, so that you will stick to it. You will know whether you are falling behind or whether you are ahead. So that will help you to track yourself. Always moving is smart. What I mean by that is, don't get stuck in one particular area. Don't get stuck in the notes. Don't get stuck in a topic. Don't get stuck in a subject. Don't get stuck within one module. Okay, alternate between strong and weak subjects. Or as I mentioned here, have a morning session for one subject, evening session for the other subject. Or alternate between notes and MCQ. You have to be alternating between your theory and MCQs, of course. That is a must. MCQs are a must. Like I said, best done on a daily basis. But wherever you feel you're getting totally stuck, try to move on and do something else. That is what I mean by saying always moving is smart. See, one thing which smart students never do is they will never leave out any subject. They will complete all subjects by the time of the exam. They may not have enough time to complete the entire subject of, say, anesthesia or dermatology or psychiatry. But what they will ensure is they will do the PYQs of that subject and maybe the high yield topics if possible of that subject. That will ensure that they will get at least 3 out of 5 questions from that subject correct in the exam. Instead of leaving out everything, they have ensured that they have got at least 3 out of 5 questions, or if you're lucky, 4 out of 5 questions correct in the exam. So never leave out any subject. All of us are on social media these days. There is something that you find everywhere on social media. It is there on YouTube, it is there on Facebook, it is there on Insta, it is there on WhatsApp, Telegram, everywhere it is there. And the thing is, it is free. Everyone gives it, everyone has it, everyone shares it, everyone gives it. What am I talking about? Could you guess it? Yes, you're right. It is the gyan or the advice. But the best thing with this advice or gyan is you can either take it or leave it. No one is forcing it down your throat. So you have to know what applies for you, or rather what is applicable for you, whether you can implement it or incorporate it into your schedule. See, I don't want you to be the guy or the girl who will watch all strategy videos, 50 to 100 of them, and ultimately never implement it. What is the use of doing that? So be smart on social media, take what you want. If you listen to the rest also, which is not your cup of tea or not applicable to you, just leave it. At the same time, there are various keyboard warriors on social media. So if you might ask a simple query, you might get trolled for that. Don't bother about all this. Our life is not defined by social media, especially for a student or PG aspirant or FMG aspirant. Social media should be, especially in this period, should be something which will help you to reach your goal of clearing the exam and getting on into the next phase of your life or your career for that matter. There is no other secret ingredient. It is you and only you. That is what Poe realizes here. This is from the movie Kung Fu Panda, one of my favorite quotes which I use quite often. See, many or most of your faculty on these popular platforms like Marrow, Prep, and other things, many of them would not have even used these platforms. That is because when they cracked their NEET PG, AIMS, JIPMER, PGI, many or all of these exams, these platforms didn't exist, or they were very much in their infancy. But still, there was equal amount of competition at that time. They used other resources and came out successfully. So ultimately it depends upon the individual, and all of these people are out there right in front of your faces now: popular faculty, popular teachers, popular or successful clinicians, I would say. So it depends upon you and how you use any of these resources. Mind you, I'm not against any of these platforms or resources. In fact, I'm a big fan of all these teachers. I'm a big fan of these platforms. They've made PG entrance preparation or FMGE preparation so much more possible, so much more educative, so much more enjoyable. What all probably you never understood or never realized how to understand, they're making you understand over here. Really, hats off to them. But then all of them will tell you ultimately it's about how you use the resource. That's why they have sessions of how to use Marrow, how to use rapid revision, how to use prep ladder, because it depends upon you how you use these resources. And you guys, let me tell you, you are capable of doing a lot. You're already fully qualified MBBS doctors. That is one thing you have to realize, okay? You're not a PG aspirant, or you're not just an FMGA aspirant. Yeah, that is probably for now. There has to be a term wherein we put you, or rather we or whoever gave this terminology as an aspirant. It is quite convenient for all of us to use. But before that, you are a fully qualified MBBS doctor who is capable of earning an independent living on your own. So own it, okay? You are there. You have worked your bloody ass off for 5.5 years, okay? You deserve it. That is what it is, okay? You are a doctor. You are going to be a doctor for the rest of your life. So that is something you need not grow horns, and say I'm so proud of it. But yes, it requires a certain amount of dedication. It requires a certain amount of intelligence. It requires a certain amount of integrity and commitment to be where you are today. So you are an MBBS doctor. Be acknowledge that fact, and don't really put yourself down. Don't really hit yourself hard. Okay, this phase too will pass. This too shall pass. Like they say, this phase will pass. But until then, study well, do well in your exams. So don't get demotivated. And if you want to ping me, message me, do it on Messenger, where I'm easily accessible, and you can reach out to me and I'll always be there to help you. All the best, guys. Study well.